financial modeling and just doing the numbers basically to see whether they should go ahead with the project. So that was kind of my focus in Dubai. And then I moved to Sydney, Australia. So I moved to Sydney, Australia just because I went there for vacation. I absolutely loved it. And then I said, I need to live there. So I went to Australia in 2015. I started working again in kind of the same area in finance, financial advisory. And then I had the opportunity to join a startup that was building a financial intelligence tool. So it was kind of well aligned with what I was doing. So I joined as a product manager, completely different role to just doing financial advisory. It was all about bridging the gap between business, what they should be delivering for their users, and the engineering team. So I did that for a couple of years, being a product manager at that company. And then a great opportunity for me came up to join another startup at the very, very early stages. So I was the 4th employee, I think. And again, I joined in the product area. I was the head of product. And what we did is that we built a new platform from scratch in the automation industry. So basically, it was all about going into companies, automating specific processes. So instead of like a human doing a boring process, a robot would go in, execute the process, and then we would ingest all the data into our platform and allow our users to use the platform to monitor and manage robotic workforces. So it was pretty cool. I absolutely loved that role. And then we did pretty well in terms of scaling that and getting big clients like financial institutions, telco companies. And in 2019, the platform, the product basically was acquired by Deloitte Australia. So I joined Deloitte Australia in the robotics department. And I've been a director there since 2019. I've been on parental leave actually since last April, as I had a baby, and that gave me the opportunity to just focus on BolsterUp, which is great. So that's what I'm doing right now in Cyprus. So I'm temporarily, I usually say, in Cyprus. We'll see what happens next, but right now I'm just focusing on BolsterUp basically. Cool, that's from me. Moving on to the next one. So what are we gonna cover today? First of all, what is BolsterUp, right? Just at a very high level, what are we trying to do with our product? And then the second thing we're gonna cover is how did we come up with the idea? So how did we generate that idea? And then what were the next steps after having that idea, kind of thinking about the potential solution? What were the next steps after that? A very crucial part of that, as I will probably mention later on, is our team. So choosing your team basically, and who's gonna be sitting in that team, in that core founding team. Very, very important for your success. From there, we're gonna talk about market validation, what that means, and how we went about it. And then what comes after that, putting your team together, market validation, and then it's all about choosing what the right direction is and the right steps are for you and your team from that point onwards. So we're going to talk about our experience with CYC and how it actually helped us formalize a few things. And then we're kind of going to drill down into our pitch. How do you pitch your idea? How do you sell it essentially? And then a business plan. What's a business plan? Why is it important? What are the fundamental things that you should be thinking about? And that's the main, those are the main things we're going to cover today. But we do want to touch on lessons learned as well and what's coming next for us. And a very important part, we do want to hear your thoughts and ideas, any questions you have, anything we can potentially help you with in the future. So please feel free to either wait for the questions in the end or just interrupt at any time and just shoot your questions through. All right. Cool, moving on. What is BolsterUp? So Didi, do you want to take this on?
Yes, so BolsterUp is a global networking and market intelligence platform dedicated to the construction industry. It is basically a digital blueprint of finished projects, showcasing all contributors to completion. It creates a one-stop shop for construction professionals to identify new collaboration opportunities, optimize their supply chain, and also creates a perfect space for targeted marketing.
To make it more tangible, we usually call it the LinkedIn of construction industry. But what that really means is that it kind of combines the construction data, the information, what we call market intelligence, with the opportunity to network and reach out directly to other professionals to collaborate on either new or running projects. So it gives you all the information you need on someone's work to decide whether you want to work with them. Like, let's think about from the point of view of a supplier. So you saw like a great marble and also marble in a building. You want to get access to the person who actually imports that or produces that. It gives you a great way to see it in action. So see it in a running project, go reach out to them and make a connection there. If you're an architect, let's say. And it's what we call, the business is what we call, and you may have come across that term before, but it's what we call a B2B platform, which means business to business. So us as a business, we address business like professionals in the construction industry, primarily. So in the future, we will be addressing consumers as well. So individuals like us and you, but our primary target group is professional businesses in the construction industry. All right, so hopefully that kind of sets the scene of what BolsterUp is, but that's not what we want to focus on today. It's all about the journey, not necessarily what we're building today. All right, so let's move on to next one, which is pretty interesting and kind of crucial. So how did we come about the idea? And the idea was not mine, so I'm not going to talk about it. The idea came from Sodiris. So I'll pass that on to you, Sodiris, to just give us an overview.
So how did we come up with the idea? First of all, these kind of ideas, they usually arise from everyday problems, gaps in the market, either through professional or personal life. For us, it all started back in 2018, at which point I was leading a tender submission for a new stadium design and build project. What that means is that my company was taking the lead to team up, group together, all the different entities that will bring the project to completion, like architects, acoustic engineers, the technology providers, different suppliers. And part of my job was to do the market research and find the right companies that would group with us. To my big surprise, the tools that I had in hand to do my research were very, very limited. I had to rely on the experience of my colleagues with experience in stadiums to give me their contacts within the market. I was doing Google searches, LinkedIn. I was using some basic platforms with static listings of different companies, but none of them were sufficient to give me, the full picture of the market and understand the capabilities of the companies that I could work with. Then I had to reach out to them, to meet with them, with the companies, with the potential group, and see whether they are a good fit to the team, whether they have done stadiums to, within the region. And, I was thinking, how time consuming and cost inefficient is that? And how restricting it is. That's when I saw that there is a big gap in the market. I was missing a tool that would provide a transparent, objective, and unbiased information on available resources within that market. A tool that would demonstrate the real capabilities of the companies through their actual work. I wanted to see the companies that build other stadiums in the city or within the proximity, and see through their work what they can offer to me. Therefore, the market gap was clear. Then the solution came along. Ioanna was also in Australia working for a startup company. Therefore, it was immediately a good match. We started discussing about it, brainstorming, doing brainstorming sessions to put together our thoughts, and came up with the solution. An idea, it's never set in concrete. It evolves and matures through time, and this process is continuous throughout its lifetime. So our idea it's still evolving even to this day.
Cool. So as Sudhir said, the idea was there. We started like thinking about potential solutions, like in the kind of solving the problem kind of mode. And that was back in 2018, Sudhir. I think it was back in 2018. So it's been a while, right? So it's not something that like happened immediately. And back then, probably like the timing wasn't necessarily right. We were too busy with our full-time jobs. I was just starting at a like new startup, blah, blah. So it took a while for us to get to the next steps. But then what was the next step that we thought it was super important to actually get right? And I kind of mentioned that before. It was all about the team. So again, so they between 2008 and by the time we got back kind of together in 2021, you were thinking about the team and how you can actually action it. So you went through the process of eliminating options or just choosing what the right option was for the idea. So do you want to take us through that? What was important for you during that time?
In 2018, when I came to Cyprus, we kind of split roads with Joanna. So the idea went to some kind of hibernation mode. So we saw that, okay, we started it in Australia, but being so far away, we couldn't continue. So I was still trying to find solutions, discussing the idea with different friends. I found many people that they were particularly interested to join the team and group to actually do this. But then the importance of the team, that's what this slide is about, is that you cannot group with anybody, just anybody who wants to join the team. You need to see the skills, you need to see to create a strong team to do that. So for us, the right time was when Ioana came to Cyprus, and we immediately saw that this could actually work. We saw that there is potential because we complement each other with our skill set, and we immediately knew that, yes, now it's the right time.
Cool. So yeah, it's definitely about like the right time, the right people. You can't just like team up with anyone and say, yeah, I'll make this work and then I'll just drag them along. You need to make sure that all the components fit well. And what you can see on this slide is kind of our team and how we complement each other and what kind of expertise we have. And you can see that and why we came up together, right? Why we teamed together. So what you can see on your screen is basically a Venn diagram. You're all probably across that. So we have like our three circles. We have the first circle, which is absolutely important. We need that industry expertise. And that's what it is, right? So what he brings onto the table is knowledge about the construction industry. He's been working in it. He's been living it for years. So he knows the industry in and out, something that I don't have, right? So that's what he brings to the table. And he knows our target users. He spoke to them before. He came across the problem that we're trying to solve many, many times. So he's essentially, in many, many ways, our user as well, right? He has connections in the industry and so on. So extremely important, not something you can just forget about and say, I'll figure it out as I go, I'll learn more about the industry as I go. And the second one, the second circle says finance and product management. And that's my kind of expertise. So finance, many people just think that's going to be something that I kind of outsource to other people, and financial literacy is not that important. It's all about my idea and knowing what I want to build and so on. Financial literacy nowadays is just so important. So having someone with a finance background in your team is extremely important because you need to be able to see whether the numbers make sense. I have an idea, I have a potential solution. Will that solution be making money? And that question is important for a few reasons, and we're going to touch on that later in the session. But first of all, you want to make sure that it's a viable business, right? So you need to be making money to survive, basically. And then you also need to be able to showcase that you're going to be making money to bring in investors. So if you cannot speak the investor's language, then you're going to have so much trouble convincing them with your numbers, and then making sure that they understand how promising this business is, so that they can give you their money to actually start running with it, right? So you need to instill that confidence in them. So finance, to my eyes, is absolutely crucial. So it would be good if someone from your founding team is very, very comfortable with that. Not necessarily an expert, but very, very comfortable with financial language and financial knowledge. And then product management. So in case you don't know what product management kind of where it sits right in the middle of the engineering team and your business users. So your users, the users of your product. It sits right in the middle, and what the role is of the product manager or the head of product is to deliver on the vision of the product of your platform, let's say. So basically, the product manager is responsible for understanding what your users need and translate that into small pieces for the engineering team to actually build on, right? So a very crucial role. I wouldn't say that's definitely, you definitely need to have that in your founding team, but it's good to have that understanding of the engineering world versus the business world and bring them together. If it's not someone in your founding team, it can be someone that will eventually have a serious stake in your business as well, and they will be committed to delivering something of good quality. So again, an important factor. So that's us at the top layer, and then we said, okay, we communicate pretty well together, we can work together, but what are we missing? And there was a very obvious thing that we're missing, right? So none of us is a developer. I'm not a developer, so it's not a developer. So we needed someone with a computer engineering background and experience. And that's we went out to find, basically. And we found someone that's also part of our founding team, Michalis, who's an engineer, computer engineer. He has years of experience in San Francisco and Cyprus. And we teamed up with him. It was also a good fit in terms of personalities. And we teamed up for him to kind of complete that puzzle, because you need that puzzle to be absolutely complete. And that's who we are today. Without like expanding too much on it, I did want to highlight the two boxes that you can see in there. Diversity in your group is absolutely crucial, because the more diverse your group is, the different understanding of the world you have and the different things you can bring on the table, right? And then complementing capabilities. If, let's say, I've seen many startups where they have like 3 founding members and it's 3 engineers. Yeah, that's all well and good. I mean, they can probably communicate really well between them because they speak the same language, but they don't have necessarily complementing capabilities. They all bring to the table the same thing. And that's going to create like some trouble down the road, because eventually you will need all the other capabilities and you won't have them. So do bear that in mind if you are starting your own startup and you're looking for to team up with people. Complementing capabilities is absolutely crucial, and again, something the investors will definitely focus on when it comes to assessing your idea. If they can see that you complement each other, the chances of convincing them are much higher compared to having 3 identical people on your founding team. Any questions on this one? All right, I'll keep on going.
Just to give an example on this, it's like you're having a football team and you're having all the team members are defenders. You need defenders, you need midfielders, and you need attackers. So you have to have the complete team.
That actually puts a visual to it. I hope that makes sense. Like, yeah, as it says, you cannot have a team full of defenders. You need someone else in your team as well. So yeah, always remember that. And what happened after like putting that team together, right? A huge step, a crucial step is market validation. And again, I'll pass it on to you, so this maybe just to go through the market validation process that you went through for BolsterUp and what that meant and why that was important.
Yeah, so market validation is really important step. You know, this process starts once you start discussing your idea with anyone that can give you a meaningful feedback. This was our strategy from the very beginning. So we were trying to discuss the idea as much as possible, get the different opinions, and try to adjust our idea based on what we got, to hear how your idea is perceived by someone who is hearing it for the first time. But getting feedback from an actual potential user or a client, that's much more valuable than getting feedback from anyone else. So that's why one of the major steps that we took was to reach out to our target market and start validating our idea. So our target market was breaking down into different categories, and we were trying to understand and get feedback from all the prism of our target market. So we reached out to architects, suppliers, contractors, and we were trying to have an open conversation with them to primarily understand the way they work now currently. Then, for example, to see how they find collaborators, how do they find new materials and resources, and then understand how they promote their work on projects they've done, and see whether they think that there is a gap in the market. So after that step, we started discussing our potential solution, and then we got a feedback on their thoughts on our solution to see whether they think that it actually solves the problem, and finally, and most importantly, whether they are willing to pay, they find our idea useful enough to actually pay for it. So that was a really huge step for us, because it gave us confidence in our idea that there is actually a gap, and our idea is actually solving the problem.
And a joke that everyone makes when it comes to market validation, and I'll go ahead and say it anyway, is never validate your idea with your mom. Okay, your mom will always say, yes, this looks perfect, it's a great idea, go ahead and do it. So don't do that. Right? So find people that will challenge you and will give you even what we call sometimes like a negative feedback, but it's not negative. Just spin it into something positive. But yeah, that's kind of a joke I always hear. So I'll go ahead. I went ahead and said it. Cool. So market validation, we'll just stay with this for a couple of more minutes. And it's all about what can you expect and what you should be doing when you're trying to validate something. The first thing that's very important is you'll need to chase your users, right? So no one will come and say, please use me and ask me questions to see if your idea makes sense. No, you need to actively go out there and find people that are willing to talk to you, right? And it's all about understanding their point of view first. I think there's a comment in the chat room. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, you need to understand their point of view first. So listen to them and then feel confident enough to ask hard questions, right? And what I really want to focus on is what we're saying in terms of challenging every yes. You'll see that when you start validating your idea and just having conversations with people, you'll meet a lot of people that are always say, yes, that sounds great. Yes, that's a great idea. Yeah, it makes sense, right? So for every yes you hear, try and spin it and try and dig a bit deeper. So if they say, yes, that sounds like a good idea, then the next question should be, okay, would you pay 30 euros for that per month? And at that point, they would probably be like, yeah, probably, right? So would you pay 40 euros for that? So you're trying to see, kind of stretch their limits and understand whether they're just agreeing because they're not confrontational, because some people don't like, they're pleasers, right? So they want to say something to make you happy and please you and move on with their lives. But that's not the audience you want. You want someone that will challenge you. So will give you feedback that will make you think more and evolve your idea and your product. So just stick to that and try and go a bit deeper every single time you talk to someone.
And then just to add something here, it's better if you get criticism from the very beginning.
Yeah.
The very beginning gives you the flexibility to still adjust. So this is the time that you want to reach out and get as much criticism, feedback as you can.
Absolutely. So yeah, people that criticize your product are probably more your allies compared to people that just say yes to everything, right? So that's the people you want to chase, basically. And then it's all about the last point we have in there. It's all about being able to pivot and adjust your vision, right? Through those interviews, through that market validation, what you're trying to get is kind of to redirect if you have to, and just focus on what's important. So be flexible. Because sometimes we do have a solution in our mind and we think, okay, that's the only solution. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Don't be that like strict. So be willing to get out of what you have in mind and just like be a bit adjust your vision, basically. Extremely important. It will definitely help you succeed in the future. All right, so we validated our idea. So we did interviews with different people, different profiles, and we took feedback from them, ideas, and we kind of adjusted what we're trying to achieve. And then what was next, right? So what was next? It was all about deciding, and this is where kind of people take different paths. So there's no golden rule. You can just choose the path that's most fitting to you. So yeah, so do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, basically, for every idea, for every startup, they have a different route. And there is a different path right for them. So it's yeah.
But at the end of the day, things that you should probably be thinking about this stage is how do I get traction, right? Which means how do I kind of start like getting access to potential clients, right? And that can be in many different many different ways. So I'm not going to go into that because that's going to take a full session on its own. You need to start thinking about your revenue sources. If you haven't to this point, you have to start thinking about your pitch and your business plan, right? So those are things that you need to start actively thinking about. So the question is, what do I do to kind of help me with the targets I have and the goals I want to achieve, right? And that's when you just take a step back, you look at the situation and you decide what's the best way forward for you and your team. And that should be agreed on collectively, obviously. And like for us, because that's what we're talking about today, for us, it was about, we saw the opportunity with C4E, and that's what we went for, right? So it gave us the opportunity to fulfill some goals through that program. So it was kind of the right direction for BolsterUp. It may be for you. So I'm sure you know what C4E does. Obviously, it's something offered by your university. So if you don't, make sure you.
Yeah. So we definitely recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to Joanna, and yeah, she'll give you more information. But definitely look into that if you're actively pursuing a startup idea. So that was the right next step for us. And I kind of want to touch on things we got from the program. There's definitely way more than what I have on the screen, but this is kind of the elements we want to focus on. So we joined the program. Obviously, we had some things already done as part of our focus prior to starting the program. But what was really helpful during the program was all the guidance we got, right? So we had workshops with experts in their fields. So we did like marketing sessions, we did the communication sessions. It was such a different range of experts that we got access to that was extremely important. And what else the program gives you that's super important is access to mentors. So basically you get assigned mentors, and these mentors, if it's a good fit between you and them, they suddenly become your new allies, your new go-to people to ask questions when you have questions. And they do have connections in the startup community. They will probably be able to guide you towards the right people, the right direction. So all that free guidance you get is extremely important. And that's something that I mentioned to Anna before. It's so amazing that the university does that for you, just because they do it they don't get anything in return in reality, right? So if you go the most accelerated, the most of the accelerators you find out there, you go in, you go through a program, and they get something back. So they get like a percentage in your business, like equity. In this case, CYC doesn't get anything. It's all about giving back to the startup community and making sure they equip you with what you need to move forward. Then I'll move on to the second one, which is the pitch. So during the course of CYC, we focused on our pitch. So understanding what goes into pitching, what you should be including in there. And we did a workshop that I particularly liked, which was around the art of communication. What we did during that workshop that was pretty awesome is that we didn't know that we had to prepare in advance to actually deliver our pitch. And it was probably more than a month before the final presentations. So we didn't really have our pitch solidified, right? Not even close. And we went into that workshop and we were kind of put on the spot and we're like, okay, just deliver your pitch and you have 3 minutes. So the first time we did it, it was a disaster, right? So we started talking and we probably, we got to the end of the 3 minutes and we're still talking about the product and the idea. So it did not go well. And then they gave us like an hour or so and they said, you're gonna try again. So we had a chat and we knew that we had to stick to the 3 minutes, and 3 minutes is actually not a long time. So just had to stick to the important stuff and stop like blabbing basically. And the second time we did it, we actually went through everything that we wanted to mention because we kind of focused on only what's important. So sometimes it's uncomfortable when people put you on the spot, but it actually helps. And obviously we had the opportunity to listen to everyone else's pitch and learn from each other. It was an awesome session. So I absolutely loved that one. And a few other things that we kind of did through the program. Maybe so you're gonna touch on those?
Yeah, so another major outcome from the CYC participation was the development of a solid and a well-thought business plan. And that's to formalize all the different components and put them together. But for the business plan, we're going to talk about it in more detail later on. And lastly, the networking opportunity. The competition has given us the opportunity to enter the world of startups and start creating a network. We were given 2 amazing mentors who guided us, advised us throughout the competition, even to this day, even after the competition. Then we met like-minded people from other teams. We heard their ideas. We got feedback for our own idea. And once you are in that world, or the startup world, then it's easier to expand your network, which is a major factor in on the lifeline of a startup idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Networking is super important. All right, so next one, let's move on to the next slide. What we kind of wanted to focus on is the pitch to start with, because again, that's something super important. And you probably heard about it before. I don't know how much you know about it, whether you've tried like pitching any of your ideas before, but it's again extremely important when it comes to succeeding in this endeavor, basically. So it's called, I don't know if you've heard the term before, but some people call it not just a pitch, they call it an elevator pitch. And there's reasoning behind that. So they're saying that you need to be able to convey your message and impress someone in the time you have in an elevator with someone. So if you are on the ground floor, you got into an elevator and you're going up to floor like 6 with someone, that's the time you have to actually impress them with your idea. So what does that mean? It has to be very short and very sharp. So cut all the extra information that are not necessary. Try to convey your message in a very clear manner, and just stick to what's very, very important and what's going to get the other person excited. And that's why they call it an elevator pitch. So with the points we have on the screen, what we're saying is that your pitch has to be targeted to your audience, right? So it's not the case where you come up with a pitch and you use the same exact pitch every time you talk to someone. So let's say you're pitching to investors, to potential investors. You need to know who's your audience in the sense of what's their background, right? For us, for example, we're building a platform for the construction industry. So if we know that investor has been investing in similar platforms or in the area of construction for the past 10 years, we can get straight to more technical terms without fearing that they won't understand what we're saying, right? But if we're pitching to an investor that has never worked in the construction industry before, it needs to be, we need to form our pitch in a way that they will actually understand it, right? So it needs to be targeted. You need to be flexible enough to adjust it depending on your audience. And again, going back to those points, it needs to be very easy to understand. So try and avoid like very complicated language. It's usually like a 3-minute pitch. That's what most people stick to. So you have 3 minutes, use simple language, to the point, and just try and get them very, very excited about what you're saying, right? So
make your audience resonate with the idea. That's the main focus.
Absolutely. So yeah, make it relatable basically. So make them say, yeah, that kind of reminds me of something. That was a problem I had, or like that kind of makes total sense. And it's that's gonna make it compelling enough for them to ask more questions, right? But yeah, short and sharp, to the point, get them excited. So give them the information they need, but at the same time, don't be boring, and make sure they understand what you're saying. Because if they don't understand what you're saying, you're just kind of leaving them with the feeling of, I'm either not, like, why don't I understand that? Am I not smart enough to understand it? Or like what they're saying makes zero sense. So you don't want that to be the result. And what's very helpful sometimes with your pitch, with anything you kind of present, is just doing a storyboard. So when we talk about a storyboard, you probably know the term, but it's essentially designing a journey for them. So you are giving your audience a journey. So you need to take them from, it's as if you're telling them a story, right? So it needs to have a start, a middle, and an end. So you're concluding to something by the end of it. And that conclusion should be along the lines of, this is an awesome opportunity, you want to invest in it, right? That's where you're trying to get them. So you want to invest because it's gonna make you a lot of money. That's your conclusion. And then it's up to them to ask more questions and drill into more details, basically. So Didi, anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good.
Cool. Yeah. All right. And again, if you have any questions, like, ask as we go. The next one, again, very, very important, and that you should be paying attention to, is the business plan. There's kind of a lot of things that go into a business plan. What we focus on here is just the fundamental parts of it that cannot be missed. But obviously, there's a lot more that goes into it. Maybe, so do you want to take the market?
Yeah. So starting with the market, the description of your target market, it's a major part of the business plan. So first of all, the description of your whole targeted market gives the potentials of your idea, how it can develop, and you know, whether there is room for your business idea to expand. For us, our target market is obviously the construction industry, but then the target market breaks down. There is a segmentation of the market, and this is again important because this is where there is an understanding in the specifics of each of the category of within your target market. For us, it breaks down into 3 main categories. And this is where you're gonna base your different strategies, like the user acquisition strategy. Then you need to understand, are all of the categories, they have the same importance to your, towards your idea? Probably no. So you need to understand who's your primary user, who's your secondary user, and then who is benefiting the most. And this is where you will know how to charge your idea. For us, for example, this is where our prices came along. And then going down to the specifics of the category, you're creating the user personas, which you go into more detail. You need to understand the problems of your user personas, and this leads to the actual product.
Yeah, definitely. So when you're creating your user personas, again, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term, but user persona is basically one of your targeted users, and you're kind of splitting them into different profiles or personas. That's what they usually call them. And you have to link those personas with your product, because everything your product does needs to be solving a problem for those personas, right? So that's where kind of everything comes together. So we have to talk about the product pillar. That's when you start thinking about the actual solution, and you start formalizing that as part of your business plan. So start writing down exactly how you're going to make that happen. All the characteristics of your product, you start thinking about technology. So if it's a tech solution, what kind of technology are you going to be using to deliver that solution? Very important. And you don't necessarily have to go into too many details in your business plan. Again, it does need to be understandable by non-engineers, unless you're solving like a very complicated engineering problem, right? That's a different story. But you're explaining your solution in more detail, and you're linking it back to the people it's servicing. Extremely important. And then if I move on to the last one, what we have there is your go-to market and financials. Go-to market is all about how are you going to get your product to market? That's what it means. And some questions you should be asking yourself there is, am I only addressing a local market? For example, is my solution only targeting Cyprus? Is it targeting Cyprus and Greece? Is it targeting more countries than that? And how am I going to go about it? So for us, for example, our go-to market is to start from Cyprus and Greece. And we consider that our testing market. But we don't want to leave it there, because if we leave it there, for us, it's not going to be profitable enough. So we definitely want to take our product global. But again, I can't just go in and say it's a global product. I'm covering the entire globe from day one. So it has to be a stepped process. So we're going to start from Cyprus and Greece, and then we're going to expand our operations to, let's say, Dubai. And that's because we both have connections with Dubai. We've lived there. We know the market. It's construction, so it kind of makes sense. Then from Dubai, we're going to take it to the UK, Spain, and the rest of the world. But as part of your go-to-market, that's what you're explaining, the stepped process you're going to follow. And at the same time, how are you going to do your marketing, right? So how are you going to address those markets? What's your marketing strategy? What's your sales strategy? So those are questions that you should be thinking about, because if you're not, and you're not including it in your business plan, investors will come back and ask you about it anyway. So you have to figure it out. And very well tied with your go-to-market is your financials. So that strategy and how you're going to target each location, for example, needs to translate into your financials. And as I said before, for us, if we look at our financial, what we're presenting in terms of our financial potential, the project is not profitable until we get access to bigger markets. In our case, it only turns profitable when we get access to the Dubai market. But while we're doing that for Cyprus and Greece, we're making a loss. And that's fine in many cases, because there's more potential than that, right? So you're building something, you're testing it, and the big prize is like down the road. It's not programmed from day one. But having those financials in there is extremely important. Again, you cannot just like skip that in your business plan, because if you do, it's going to be missing something. So those three kind of pillars are definitely fundamental. But again, there's many more things that go in there. But you can definitely find templates online, download them, have a look, and find one that mostly fits what you're doing. All right, and we're getting towards the end, so I'm not going to start wrapping up already, but I do want to touch on this as well. Obviously, I am an accountant, so can't really avoid that. I do want to stress why, like the importance of your financials. And the first question you should be asking, and everyone's going to be asking that question, is is my business idea or the business I'm building financially viable? Can it survive, right? And to be able to answer that question, you need to go through like a thinking process and just putting down numbers. First of all, what are my revenue streams? So how am I making money? Am I charging people for it? Who am I charging? Am I getting money from advertising? So who's paying for the advertising, right? Is it just a matter, like you need to know how this business is making money, and you need to formalize it by writing down your numbers. And a question that I touched on before is, again, are you addressing a local market only? If you do, you need to make sure that it's viable only through, let's say, Cyprus. And as a rule of thumb, it's if you need a huge investment, a lot of money to put into it, Cyprus, because of its smaller size, may not be profitable enough. So the next question is, can I expand that to a market outside Cyprus, right? And then you should start thinking about your what we call in finance assumptions. So if you're saying I'm going to be charging people for it, then the next question is, okay, so how many clients do I expect to have in year one? How many clients do I expect to have in year two? So you need to kind of map that out. And then how much am I charging them? Is it going to be monthly, a yearly basis? So you do the math, right? It's just simple math. So number of clients times how much I'm charging them, and you get to your potential revenue. And that's just a very simple example, but you kind of get what I'm saying. And then you need to start thinking about your expenses. How much is this going to cost, and so on. So if you're not comfortable with like financials, just talk to someone who is, right? So just get that written down on paper, include that in your business plan. And then are you confident enough when you get to the end? Are you confident enough to talk about those numbers? You need to be able to present them in front of investors and be fully comfortable with them and fully confident that you can actually achieve them, right? And they're always gonna like dig deeper into what you're saying. So be prepared to answer questions. Yeah, and the final question I have in there: if you saw those numbers for someone else, would you invest in their idea? So if you wouldn't invest your money, if you wouldn't give someone your money to do it, then no one else will give you their money for you to do it, right? So always ask yourself that question. All right, so that's kind of it basically, but we did want to touch on lessons learned throughout like the past year, I would say. So maybe let's just touch on them like at a very high level. So what our kind of learnings are in the past few months, past year. So Didi?
Yeah, so some lessons learned, just to sum up a bit on our path so far. So we both agree that getting out of your comfort zone, that's a major stop for on your startup road. I know that many people, they do have ideas, but if you don't want them to stay as ideas and actually starting doing something about it, then push yourself and get out of your comfort zone. That's a lesson learned, a major lesson learned.
Cool. I think the second one, so connect with people. So invest that time to talk to people, share your idea, expand your network, and always ask for their feedback. So never think I won't share my idea. What if they steal it and all of that? Just because that means it's taking away the feedback you can get. Connect with as much people as you can and get their feedback. That's kind of the thing there. And I'll take on this next one as well. So give yourself some deadlines. So I know I have it, and I'm sure some other people have it. Sometimes I'm a procrastinator, which means I always push things down the road. And I'll say I'll do it later. So that doesn't work. So if you're that kind of person that says, yeah, I'll do that tomorrow and I'll do it the day after, try and give yourself a strict deadline and stick to it, right? So pretend that someone gave you the deadline and they expect you to deliver on that day, and actually go ahead and do it. Otherwise, you'll never get anything done unless you are super organized and you know how to actually achieve those goals without putting additional pressure. So do whatever works for you, but giving yourself deadlines definitely works. And so Diri, your team is key.
Yes, so
yeah.
As already said before, team is very important. Basically, I think that an idea without the right team, it means nothing. You might have a brilliant idea, like you're gonna create a hotel in space or something, but then if you have a simple idea with the right team, that's more believable that it's going to be a success. So yeah, an emphasis to the team.
Yeah, definitely. And be agile enough. So don't like set something in your mind and be unwilling to change it. Your product and your solution to your idea will keep on changing. And that's good. So accept criticism in the best way and use that to your advantage. So take criticism and change it into a positive thing for you. So be agile, be flexible, and be willing to change your position. Cool. And in case you are interested, maybe you're not, if you are, what's next for us, for our team basically, and for BolsterUp? What we're focusing on right now is expanding our network even further, right? So not just in Cyprus, but in all the locations that we want to touch basically. We continuously ask for feedback. So we continuously meet with more targeted users and ask for their opinion. And then there's always something that you can learn from a new person, because each of us sees the world and everything in a slightly different way. So networking, extremely important. Traction, Dave, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so the next two, basically, they are kind of linked together. So what we want is to gain traction. This means that we're going to reach out to the market and actually engage users to show traction. So that's the next step. We're going to try and do that with different strategies that we have in place. One of them is the creation of an MVP, a minimum viable product, which we are discussing at this stage how to actually do that and what's going to go in the MVP, in our MVP.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, the MVP release is going to be big for us. Yeah, just having the right foundations in terms of the technology in place to be able to continue delivering on that MVP. And the last one that we're definitely talking about like all the time is investment opportunities. What we're trying to do is like requires a big investment, so a big chunk of money. So from like we're already looking for what we call an ideal investor. So we don't just want to get money from someone and go and do it. We want to get money from someone that can actually open doors for us. So in exchange of like as part of that collaboration, basically. So someone who knows the construction industry, someone who has connections and will even bring in customers, right? So that's something we're actively doing right now and thinking about whether that ideal investor is in Cyprus or is in Dubai, Australia, and so on. So that's kind of where we are right now and what we're currently working on. So if we do talk to you again, we're probably going to have a lot of new things to share, hopefully, and good things. So we'll see how it goes. All right, that's it. So we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, any thoughts, was this useful? Did you enjoy it? Or anything you would like to address?
I have a question.
Cool.
How do you go about finding the right people for your team? Where do you search for them, and how many people would you need in a founding team?
Yeah, cool. Great question. Love it. So there's many ways to find people. So the most obvious one would be people that you already know and either have worked together before or met through like common friends and so on, or you start getting involved in the startup ecosystem. So you start going to events that talk about startups, even though you don't have your own startup. That's how you kind of meet people. And then every time you meet someone, you understand their background and start thinking whether you can potentially team up with them. and always having in mind their skill set, right? And what do you need to complement your skill set? So that's one way, through like connections organically and your network. Or there's even like nowadays, there's so many options out there in terms of, they even have, I don't know if you know the accelerator in the US, it's called Y Combinator, like Y, the letter, Combinator. And you can go in there and they have like a matchmaking service for founders, right? Which is great. And you wouldn't have like a few years ago, but now you can go in there, you can either post your idea or your profile, and you may be picked up to join forces with someone else, or you find like the founders that you need to join forces with you. So you can say, I'm looking for a founder in Europe with this skill set, and see if anyone is a good match with you. So that's also the other way of going around about it. But if you start sharing your idea, then I'm sure you will be able to find someone.
Just for something here. I think at the beginning you need to understand who do you need? I mean, with what qualifications you need. And then once you have that in place, you will be looking, you have a target. So you have a target on who to look for. Do you need a tech guy, an all-stack engineer, or you might not need an engineer, you might need someone else. So you need to have the positions that you need and then see how to start. And obviously, maybe you have many positions, but you cannot fill everything. But our advice on the team is to, avoid having a repetition of what you already have. If you have a skill, don't try and find someone with the same skill set. Try to find someone else to cover another aspect of your startup. And if you're missing someone within your team, that's okay, as long as you identify this. And then in your business plan, in your description, an investor might want to hear that you understand that you're missing someone and you will fill that place somehow in the future.
Yeah, and you also asked about the number, like, of people in the founding team. That's kind of subjective, but my position on that would be, I think 3 people are like the absolute max. And I'll give you a few reasons for that. First of all, communication and agreeing on things. It's not easy to agree with more than 3 people on something, on a strategy. And then the second one, which is again, like the accountant in me, think about what we call your equity. So what percentage do you have in this business, right? So if you bring in 5 people, then suddenly unless you are the like big percentage holder, but suddenly you're splitting that 100% into many smaller pieces. And initially we don't necessarily think about it as a bad thing, because you're saying, I still have like, I don't know, 20%, that's still a good percentage. But as you get money to actually expand your business, that percentage will become smaller and smaller and smaller. So you don't want to be giving that away, like 2 people just for the sake of it, right? So you want to be absolutely sure that if you're giving someone a percentage, they're actually going to be able to do what you need them to do, and it's making it count for you. So my personal suggestion would be 3 absolute max, and everyone else, it's just going to be like employees basically that you bring in, and you do give them a percentage, but it's going to be a smaller one. Does that make sense? Cool. Any other questions or thoughts?
Yes, I do have as well a question to ask.
Cool.
But
Perfect.
I don't think it is relatable to what you have talked the whole time. So the question is, let's say I already have a business in France, but I'm not really educated in engineering or marketing or business and all this stuff, but the business not going well at all.
Yeah.
I know that the huge mistake is that I do not have a really great team. And also I'm not skilled, I'm not educated to this thing. So how can I possibly get better with my business?
Cool. And love that. Yeah. So I think the answer there, and my point of view, would be you ask for help. So If you know your business is failing because of like poor marketing techniques, let's say, because you don't know enough about marketing, which I don't either, right? I know very basics about marketing. Then you find a person that knows marketing and they give you some guidance. Or you can also do like educate yourself a bit. You can do online courses these days, like you can find everything, right? Anything online. But like that's kind of the key there, thing there. You ask for help. And if it's not going well financially, then you definitely find someone that understands numbers and you ask for help in terms of that. So you don't have the right team now, but the question you should be asking yourself is, can I turn that around? Can I find people that I can rely on? Or just like ask for help as a favor, right? You don't have to necessarily bring them into your team, but just find those people that can sit down with you, explain a few things, a few concepts, tell your story, share what's not going well, and they will definitely have some advice for you.
Thank you so much.
If you do need help with financials, let me know. I can help as well.
With engineering, I can help.
Cool. All right. Anything else?
I have another question, if that's okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
At the time you guys were making your pitch at the entrepreneurship competition, did you already have a tangible product to present at the time of you making that pitch?
Interesting one. No. So
or just the idea?
Yeah, just the idea. What's good with this specific competition is that it's kind of a business plan idea competition. So, and you'll find different programs for the different stage you are in. So for us, no, we didn't have a product. And that's kind of what our biggest fear was, because some other teams did have products and they had something to actually showcase that they've delivered on, and we didn't. But at the end of the day, it's what we want to do. Like, we know it can be done. It has been done, like similar things have been done before. It's a matter of putting your the right architecture in place and just doing it properly. But I think what made the judges kind of put that aside was the fact that we had a strong team, we had a strong idea, and we could show the potential. So they didn't really care about not having an actual product, because they knew we can actually deliver on it. So don't be afraid of, but it depends on the competition, right? Some competitions require you to be at a certain stage before you enter. So find the right program for you and where you are with your business.
And just to add something here, I think it's not the actual product that it's important. The important in having a product is to show traction. So if you find a way to show traction means you are already out in the market and there is a
getting clients on board.
Yeah, there is a response from the market, a positive response that you can demonstrate it. So this is the aim, not the actual product. The product, of course, is going to come, but one way or another, it will come. You know, the investor, they want to see that you made something and you already have a positive response from your target market.
Yeah, and it depends always on the person you're delivering to. But to what Sadiri said, traction, and you may already know that, but I'll just mention it anyway. The simplest way of getting traction and showing traction is you probably come across it when you go into a website, right? And it's explaining the product, the vision, and what they're going to be building. And they have, like, at the bottom of the page something that says, join our wait list, right? So join an early bird sign up. And you go in, you put your email, and you're saying, I'll join your wait list, and as soon as this is released, I want in, right? So you have that, and if you market it properly, then people will go on there, will put their name down that they want to use your product when it's released, and then straight away, basically, you're getting traction. So you're getting a list of users before you even have a product in the market. But yeah, it depends on the program, it depends on the investor, but don't think that you should stay away from everything until you have a product.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Anything else, guys? All right. You may think about something like after the session, or you may have questions and you don't want to ask in front of everyone. So if you do have questions, if you do want to have a chat with us, feel free to reach out. Our emails are over there. pretty simple emails. So yeah, we would love to hear from you. Hopefully it wasn't a boring session and you actually got something out of it. I'm hoping you did. So yeah, if you want to have a chat with us at any point, just send us an email and we'll be in touch. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Hi. Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.